Hello everyone, and welcome to Ask an Agronomist, the first of a series of interactive session by Newport Fersan Jamaica Limited. My name is Nicheal Dadzie, and I will be answering your questions today. So welcome again, and you can post your questions here for them to be answered by me, Nicheal Dadzie. Now there are some questions that were posted before we started this live, and we want to go through those questions, and during that time also we'll take your questions and we'll try as best as possible to answer all the questions. But if we aren't able to answer all your questions, you can always send them in as well, and we'll follow up from there. But there's a lot of questions that have been coming through before the live, and we're trying to get you all of those. All right, so don't be too disheartened if you don't get your questions answered today, because for sure they'll be answered later on. Okay, so thank you again for joining us, and I look forward to an interactive session with you guys. Now, one of the questions our farmers, our budding farmers, sent in was, what exactly does a soil test entails, and how do I go about arranging a soil test? Now, a soil test is an analysis of nutrient of the soil. A plant requires about 17, some say 18 nutrients to grow, reproduce, go through their life cycle. And so the nutrients most of them comes from the soil. Some of them are absorbed through the leaves of the plant, but majority of the nutrients are absorbed from the soil. Now, if you're on a piece of soil, naturally soils have varying levels of nutrients, and so it is not uncommon for a soil to have missing nutrients, because every soil has different properties, and so because of that, you find that some soil will be more fertile than others in terms of nutrient present. So we do a soil analysis to ascertain what is the nutrient content of a particular soil in a particular area. So once we get that, we know, because we're nutrient persons and we make nutrients and we call them fertilizers, but essentially these are essential nutrients that plants need. Because we know the nutrient requirement for almost any crop that you grow, not almost, but any crop that you want to grow, we can then make a recommendation based on a soil test. Now, how do you go about arranging a soil test? Currently, the cost of a soil test is $50 US. If you should translate $50 US, that comes to about 7,500 on average, because the volatility of the US dollar. And it's not something that we want to charge US dollars. It's something because we send this soil test into the US jurisdiction for it to be analyzed and sent back to us, and the charge is in US dollars. So that's the reason it's in US dollars. Okay. Now, once you've made that payment, you make a contact to us here. Our phone numbers are 876-967-5815. Once you make a phone call to that number, you can ask for a technical department, then they can put you onto an agronomist that is in the zone that you're calling from. So we have 4 agronomists that covers the entire island, zone 1, 2, 3, and 4, which comprises of different parishes. And so you'll be channeled to one of those areas based on where you're calling from. And once you make payment is verified, an agronomist comes, take the soil sample. Once the agronomist take the soil sample, it is then sent overseas to the lab to be analyzed. It usually takes about 10 working days for it to come back to us, and then it takes another 5 working days for us to then produce a recommendation to you based on the crop that you're growing. Now, another question was asked, how do I boost the yield, the productivity of my hot peppers? That's a good question, a pretty easy question, because I would practically answered some of the question already, because boosting your pepper yields or any crop at all, start by doing the right thing, which is a soil test. And once you start a soil test and then we design a nutrient management program for you, then the aim of designing that now is to boost your productivity, whether you're planting hot peppers, tomatoes, carrots, anything at all that you're planting. All right. Another question was sent in, what fertilizers do I use on my strawberries? Now, we at Newport Fersan, we have a unique line of fertilizer, and we call them our premium line. I like to describe the premium line as best in class. When I say best in class, it is the best available fertilizer available locally for you to grow any crops, but specifically for strawberries, because the product is packaged in such a way. You have what we call the initiator, you have the growth, you have the flowering, and you have the production. Now, it is packaged that way because it follows the growth pattern of the crop, especially strawberry. So the initial stage, which is the initiator product that you use on the initial stage. So the first 2 weeks you use your initiator. Then after that, for another 2 weeks, you use your growth. So the initiator initiates the root development and shoot development. The growth enhances the vegetative growth. And then you have the flowering for when it starts to flower. And then you have the production for when it starts to fruit. And so it follows that pattern, that same pattern of the plant, and then you can switch nutrients throughout the crop cycle. And so that in itself is an excellent fertilizer for strawberries. It said, what is the best fertilizer program to use on watermelon? Again, a soil analysis is of paramount importance. Recently we were discussing in our technical department to say, how can we, as a technical department, how can we save our farmers some money? And we all came back to one conclusion: a precise nutrient management program. Because if you're going to go blind to grow watermelons, and you're going to grow, and you're not sure of what nutrients exist in the soil, it means you have to then put on all the necessary nutrients. And sometimes the nutrients that you're putting on might already exist in the soil. And so from an agronomist standpoint, the best option for you, if you're growing any crop, watermelon, be it watermelon or any other crop, is start with a soil test, soil analysis. Once the soil analysis is done, then we can design a nutrient program to suit the area, the location that you're planting. Okay? It says, when and how do I apply Fersan solubles on my plants? Now, we have soluble fertilizers and we have granular fertilizers. Soluble fertilizers are those fertilizers that are water soluble. They can be dissolved in water. And it's specifically designed for persons who have drip irrigations. And so it goes through the drip line with consummate ease, and it is delivered to the root of the plants. Whereas granular fertilizer is not water soluble, and so would require a longer time in terms of you have to then place the fertilizer around a crop, cover it with soil, and it takes a little more time to break down and releases over time. Now, soluble fertilizers can be applied foliarly, and it also can be applied through the drip. Now, in applying the soluble fertilizers on foliar application, which means on the leaves, you don't want to put more than 2 tablespoons per gallon of water to be sprayed on the leaves, or 3 pounds per 45-gallon drum, which covers an acre. And then you can apply your soluble fertilizers. But again, we do what we call designing precise nutrient management program. We can do it with granular fertilizer, or we can do it with soluble fertilizer. And then we give you specific instruction when to apply, how to apply, and how much to apply. And I give you, because precise nutrient management system rather, is based on a guiding principle, the 4 R's: the right source, the right amount, the right time, and the right place. So the right source is, of course, Newport Fersan, because we provide the best nutrients available for your plants here in Jamaica. We're the manufacturers of fertilizers. We know nutrients and we know crop nutrition. That is a given. That is us. You say crop nutrition, you say Newport Fersan Jamaica. So we are the right source for nutrients. The right timing, when to apply, we give you instruction of that. The right amount, how much to apply, and the right place, where to apply it. We give you that sort of information. So you don't have to worry about if you're in receipt of a nutrient program from us, then that's the sort of guidance you receive. Almost handheld through your agricultural production. Okay? Another question a person asks about Fertilizer. Fertilizer is a, I wouldn't say it's a, my farmers like to call it a celebrity crop, where if you're planting potatoes, then you know everyone wants to know what you're doing, what you're planting, how is it going. So our potato farmers, they use our Fertilizer. Now our Fertilizer is in two parts. You have the starter and the finisher. So the starter is applied at planting, and the finisher is applied 4 weeks after planting or during the molding process. So the molding of the potato is when you eat the dirt around the stem, because the potatoes bear from the stem. The potatoes are actually the stem that we're eating. So the stem is swollen, and once you cover those stem, then it triggers the plant. The stem is swollen, and then we eat the potatoes. So the Fertilizer is applied again at planting and 4 weeks or at molding. Now the amount that you apply, 250 kg bags or 220 pounds per acre. Whenever we speak as an agronomist, we speak in a per acre basis. Here in Jamaica, that's a local jargon for agriculture. Whenever we speak about a product, it's usually on a per acre basis. And so it's 250 kg bags or 220 pounds Fertilizer starter. To start, when you're planting, how to place it, you put it in the hole that you put in the potato, and then you cover the fertilizer, then you place your potato down, and then you cover. During the molding process, you put it in a circular band around the potato, and then you cover with dirt again and mold it during the same process. So at that time, you use 5 50 kg bags per acre, all right, which is 550 pounds per acre. So in total, you're doing 7 bags per acre, 750 kg bags per acre. All right. I see your questions coming in. I'll answer them as we go along. There was a question early from, I think it's, what's the name? Budding farmers. They were growing some gungus, and they were seeing some insects that are affecting gungo, some black insects. I want to get to their question. And they're asking, you know, how can I treat with that, and what is it? All right. So interestingly, there's a weevil. We call it the pea weevil, really, which affects gungo. Specifically, it affects the pod, where it burrows into the pod. The larvae burrows into the pod, and it eats the pea inside before it matures. Once it becomes an adult, it will then start to feed on the blossom of the gungo tree. And so it's called a pea weevil. I'm assuming, because I'm unable to have a view of what it is really, I'm assuming that's what it is. Because really and truly, as an agronomist, to make an accurate diagnosis, then I'll have to be in the field to assess. But my best answer would have been a pea weevil. And to treat a pea weevil, you can use any contact or stomach insecticide. Fortunately for you, at Newport Fersan, we provide such insecticide. So in the form of it's called First Strike. So you can use the First Strike, and it should be able to clear up those pestilence that we call weevils. All right, moving on. We have some more questions coming in. It says, how much Maniplex to a drum for spraying 3-month-old peppers? Now, a rule of thumb is what you're spraying on any form of nutrient on your crop, it's 1 liter per acre. If it's liquid, 1 liter liquid Maniplex per acre, and that goes into a 45-gallon drum. And how often do you apply? You can apply every 14 days. But if you see where there is a nutrient deficiency, which you can identify, then you can also go every week instead of every 14 days. You can do every 7 days or every 14 days, depending on what you're seeing in the field. But the normal recommendation is to go every 14 days. All right? Question was asked, how do we have organic fertilizers? Of course we do. The market has evolved, and so at Newport Fersan, we're not static, we evolve with the market as well. And so we know persons are asking for organic fertilizers, and of course we listen to our customers, and then, you know, we brought to market a line of organic fertilizers that we call First Organic. We have 5 products in the line. We have a starter, we have a Nitromax, we have an all-purpose, we have a finisher, and we have a potash. It is the nutrients are derived from microbes, and it's a 100% organic fertilizers with all the necessary certification bodies certifying it as 100% organic. Now, it is the only organic product that you'll see locally with a high percentage nutrient in it. We have products with over 15%, some with 20% of a particular nutrient in the bottle. For more information, you can always contact us here at Newport Fersan, and we can go through the line of product with you to share that information with you and how to use the product. Another question was asked, what is the best fertilizer for okra? I saw a question, what is the best fertilizer for tomato? I saw another question, what is the best fertilizer for soursop trees, and so on. I'm going to give you an answer. And persons asked for the best fertilizer for pineapples. Now I'm going to try to answer all of those questions as a group. The best fertilizer for your crop can be determined by you doing a soil test for the areas that you're located. No, that's a first and that's the best option available to you. Now you have a second option. In the absence of a soil test, you can now provide the nutrients that the plants need. So as an agronomist, for example, I know pepper plants will need 190 pounds per acre of nitrogen. I know they need 40 pounds of phosphorus per acre, 40 to 60 pounds of phosphorus per acre. I know they need 190 to 200 pounds of potassium per acre based on the yield I'm looking for. And that's the NPK. Now, if I didn't do a soil test, I'll then have to apply all these nutrients. So when a person tells you that this fertilizer is for tomato, or this fertilizer is for, they'll have to give you some more information as to how they come up with that to tell you that this is potato, this is tomato fertilizer. But the correct thing to do is to do a soil test. Now, as I said, in the absence of that, what I can do is give you my best advice in terms of we design a fertilizer with the idea that tomato uses this amount of nutrients, and then we put that in the bag of fertilizer and sell it to you because we know that it's going to use this amount of nutrients over the crop cycle. So for example, pineapple, we did the research on pineapple, we know the amount of nutrients it used, we know what nutrient it uses most, and we then blend a fertilizer, we call it the Pinelizer, which also has a starter and a finisher. We did some research on Fertilizer as well. We did the same thing with castor beans. We look at the castor bean crop, we look at the nutrient demand of the crop, and we look at the areas that they are grown mostly, and then we come up with a fertilizer regime for castor beans and so on. So if you're planting tomatoes for an okra, for example, we can then assess your situation and then we can make a recommendation. And then a person asked about soursop trees as well. Fruit trees in general, we normally recommend our 15-5-35 fertilizer if it's bearing, if it's in the productive stage where it's bearing our fruit. If it's in the early stage, we normally recommend our 14-28-14. But again, as I said to you, these options are available. You resort to this in the absence of a soil test, or if a soil test is not economically viable in terms of an option. Because if you have one soursop tree, I'm not going to say do a soil test because you have one soursop tree. It's not you could just purchase a bag of fertilizer and purchase the best one and the best advice. For that would have been just to purchase some 15-5-35 if it's bearing. If it's a young tree and you're starting, you use some 14-28-14 to start. And if it's a tree that you want vegetative growth, you can either use our Green Plus or a sulfate of ammonia. Alright? So if you want, let me just give you a general guide into nutrients, into fertilizers. So if the crop is an early crop that you just transplanted, no soil test. The idea is that you want to give it some phosphorus to boost root development, because phosphorus deals with the development of the roots. Our product that we have, our 14-28-14, is one of the product that we have that supplies the highest amount of phosphorus in terms of nutrients to the crop. So you want to start with that 14-28-14. The crop is now goes through another stage. It's a vegetative stage where it wants to grow branches and leaves and so on, and you want to put on some nitrogen to enhance that. So you can use our Green Plus or a sulfate of ammonia, which are choices. And we have other choices as well. And if it's soluble, you can use our growth premium, which I mentioned earlier. And then the crop goes to another stage, which is a productive stage. If it bears a fruit, like bananas or soursop or even tomatoes, you can then use our 15-5-35, or you can use our production if it's soluble fertilizer that you're looking. So that's just a basic guide. But as I said to you, the most important thing you can do as farmers is to do a soil analysis, and then from that soil analysis, we then formulate a nutrient program that suits the area that you're planting. Alright? What is the best for mite control? I'm going to answer this question, and I'm going to answer a couple questions that came through, because if I should remember clearly, someone also asked about some plants that had some black, curl leaves, and that the leaves are black, if I remember correctly. Now, mites are what we call sucking insects. So they'll suck the leaves of the plant, suck the sap from the leaves, and then the leaves curl. The leaves curl inward. All right, and then you'll see black to brown spots, or black to brown spots on the leaves, and then you can diagnose that more than likely it's mites. But again, as I said, it's an educated guess really, but to diagnose for sure, then agronomists have to come out into your field and make an assessment of it. And so you're using a microscope, and you go through, or a hand lens, sorry, and you go through and you look. Now, once a diagnosis is made and we confirm that it's mites, then you can use a product from the abamectin group. So once you have an abamectin product containing the active ingredients is abamectin, then you can go ahead and spray. Our first strike can do some control on mites, but it only controls broad mites. And there are two types of mites basically that affects your plant: spider mites and broad mites. The first strike can control the broad mites. And so if you really have a high infestation of mite problem, you want to use what we call a true miticide. And an abamectin is a true miticide that you can go to your farm store and ask them for a product that contains abamectin, and you can go ahead and you spray your plants for the treatment. The best insecticide for sweet corn, and how often do I use it? Now, sweet corn is, worms are lovers of sweet corn. It's sweet, and just like us, how we love the fruit, the worms love the fruit as well. And that's the most economically important insect when it comes to growing sweet corn. First strike again is what we call the boss of worms. It's a broad spectrum insecticide, but it has a specific action on worms, and so it will take care of your worms in your sweet corns. And how often do you spray? You have to have what we call a pest and disease program. So you want to, the first resort is not to spray a chemical when you're growing a crop, because you have to, what we call scouting. There's a thing that we call economic injury level in farming. And unless the pests reach a level where it's causing an economic loss to your crop, you make a decision to spray. So if you go in the field and you see one worm or two, that's not a reason to spray a chemical. So we have to be responsible as farmers as well. So we can't just say, let us go and spray because I see a worm. We have to be very responsible in what we do. And so unless the crop reaches an economic injury level where it is harming your profit that you'll be gaining from that crop, then you decide to spray. Now, during the summer months, I can tell you though, is there's a high infestation of worms. So the pest level goes up in the warmer time of the year during the summer months, and it's coming to that time of the year. And I've seen where farmers are spraying every 5 days, every 4 days to control the pest. But ideally, you want to make a spray. In normal conditions, you're spraying once a week or once every 10 days. You're making a spray to control. Alright, so Eradicate. Someone asked about our product Eradicate. how much per drum, and what's the pre-harvest interval. The pre-harvest interval for Eradicate is actually 30 days for vegetable crops. For bananas, it's 0 days. Alright, so for different crops, we have different pre-harvest intervals. So I gave you, for most vegetable crops really though, it's 30 days, and for bananas, it's actually 0 days. Because different crop assimilates the chemical and treats the chemical differently, so you'll have the difference. So for crop specific, then we can guide you based on a crop specific guide in terms of how much to use. But the general rate of application is, for example, in vegetables, is 250 ml. Actually, sorry, 8 ml per gallon of water. So 8 ml, which is 1.5 teaspoon per gallon of water for Eradicate, and you can treat for fungal diseases, wide range of fungal diseases, leaf spots, anthracnodes, and so on. I saw a question: what would you recommend to treat in fungal disease? The Eradicate is perfect for that. We also have another fungicide, we call it Clearway. By the way, just to tell you the active ingredients in Eradicate, the active ingredients in Eradicate is azoxystrobin and propiconazole. So it's a double. What we call double action then, or two active ingredients in one bottle, so you get a double action from it. You get what we call a preventative and a curative action from it. So it eradicates, it gets rid of your fungal disease. We also have a Clearway. It's a new product that came into market. It's carbendazim and mancozeb. Again, it's a systemic and a contact insecticide, so you get a double action from it. Alright, and that is about 8 to 10 grams per gallon of water to treat most crops again. And the pre-harvest interval for that is 7 days. A question was asked: the pepper trees are losing their leaves, it's defoliating, and the blossoms, and it's blossoming right now. Now, when a crop reaches productivity stage, it's blossom, it goes into fruiting. There's a higher demand and a greater demand for nutrients at that time. To make a diagnosis here would be premature on my part, because I have to come again in the field as an agronomist to make an assessment. But as I said, I can give you the best answer possible. So once a plant reaches the productive stage, it demands a certain level of nutrients. And if the nutrient is absent, then the plant is going to sacrifice some of its productive part or some of its leaves in order to try to make a fruit. Because the aim of a tree, really, of a plant, especially like pepper plant, is to try to make the fruit, make an offspring to carry on the generation. And so if it reaches a stage where it's under undue stress in terms of a lack of nutrients or maybe drought conditions or whatever environmental condition that exists, it will try to bear fruit as quickly as possible, go through its productive life cycle, because it knows at the end of the day it's going to die. So that could be a possible answer. As I said to you, to make a proper diagnosis, then I'll have to come. A question was asked: what program would you recommend for sweet peppers? And we went through, go back to the soil test. We start with a soil test. It might sound repetitive, but the thing is, it is the correct way of growing a plant. Alright? And if somebody asked me to remind you of the cost of a soil test, and the number here is 876-967-5815. You ask for our sales and technical department. The cost of the soil test is $50 US. And I went through how, and once you make that arrangement and that call to our technical department, then you will be diverted to one of our agronomists, who will then go through the arrangement with you. Alright, somebody asked, if I have planted an acre of pepper, what yield should I expect weekly? How much you're going to reap per week? I can give you an easy answer. Anywhere between 800 to 1,000 pounds per week, start reaping, is a good yield in hot pepper. At the end of the day, at the end of the productive life cycle of the crop, which usually we say you want to try to keep that plant at least for 6 months, you want to have 20,000 pounds of pepper per acre. Alright? So 20,000 pounds of pepper per acre represents an excellent yield in hot pepper production. Alright? You say after securing the land, what are the 3 steps to take to farm peppers? Alright, so you purchase the land. I want to, and farmers, and you're here live with me, if you're getting a piece of property, purchasing a piece of land or leasing, I'm encouraging you to know your water source before leasing any property, because water is an essential part of growing crops. Alright? Because rainfall, because of climate change, it's so unpredictable to know when it's going to fall, when the rain is going to fall, you can't predict the rain. You know, so you want to know your water source, and once you get that water source, then you're fine. You purchase your land. The next thing you do clearing, your land clearing. What you want to do during that time, if you don't have a nursery to procure planting material, which are already seedlings for pepper, if you don't have a nursery, you want to then find someone who has a nursery, and then you contract that person to grow the seedlings for you. If you don't have an idea of how much you're going to plant, then you can then contract the person to grow the seedlings for you. Once the person is having the seedlings growing, now you're preparing the land in terms of plowing. If you're going to do plastic mulch, you plow, you plow about, do your cuttings. You have about 3 cuts that the tractor do to prepare the beds to plant. You get your drip irrigation, you put on the irrigation. If it is drip, it is recommended that you plant them on drip. You get your plastic, you lay your plastic. If it is plastic, you don't have to put on plastic, but you know, it's easier to deal with the weed infestation and that. And then, but during all of that, during the land clearing, after you clear the land and you start to plow, then you can call Newport first and Jamaica first to do the soil test. We take the soil, then you can continue in your operations. During that time, your seedlings are growing in the nursery to be planted. Your nutrient program is being prepared by Newport Fersan, and we guide you with pest and disease management as well. We guide you with water management as well. And so at the end of about, let's say, 6 to 8 weeks, you're now planting your peppers in the ground. We'll be there on site with you to give you guidance, to give you the step-by-step instruction of what you do going forward and how do you manage the crop going forward. A person, if farmers have a 9 to 5, how could they schedule farming to ensure profitability? Farming is a very, what would I say? It's a very demanding, job. All right. The reason I'm saying this, you know, because a lot of persons who do a 9 to 5 and they do farming as well. Quite a number of persons, but then you'd have to have somebody who you designate to be there for you. Because if you can't be there, someone has to be there. Because I'm going to tell you another skill in planting that you have to develop. There's a skill called scouting. And as simple as the word seems, scouting, it is very important to the success of your crop. Because in scouting, you observe on a daily basis pests that affects the crop. Because another thing important in agriculture is timing. Because if you see a pest today and it's not treated, and you leave it, and within a day, it can then eliminate your crop. And so you have to have someone there who has the same passion or has the same drive as you do. But remember, you know, if it's your own crop, you have the most interest in it. And unless you have somebody there to do that for you, then you can go ahead and you know, have a 9 to 5 and also do your farming. But as I said to you, scouting is important, so you want somebody who is there to go on a day-to-day basis and they can make recommendations and so on. Can you use vitamins on plants? Vitamin B1, that person asked. That's a very interesting question. Alright? Now I'm going to say plant nutrients or fertilizers are designed for plants. you have nutrients that are designed for human consumption, and so we don't want you to cross them, because I'm sure you wouldn't take a bag of fertilizer and eat, so I don't want you to use a fertilizer for yourself to give to the plants. Alright, so all the nutrients that you need for plant production, we have it available at Newport Fersan. So you don't have to worry about going somewhere to, and you're unsure. If you're unsure, you can call us here at Newport Fersan and we'll tell you what to do. Can clearer be drenched for fusarium wilt? Especially in pepper, fusarium wilt is very difficult to treat. As a matter of fact, the recommendation is to try to prevent it rather than try to treat it. Try to prevent it rather than try to treat it, because treating it is next to impossible. Sanitation is important in treating fusarium wilt. So for example, if you're in an area that is flood prone, you want to have raised beds. You want to have your beds about a 1.5 foot to 2 foot out of the soil. So when it rains and the water settles, you don't have that settling in the field for too long. So you want to reduce the residence time of water in the field. If there's an infestation of fusarium wilt, you want to ensure that the movement of persons in the field not to transfer from that infected tree around the field. Because as I said to you, that can now have a deleterious effect. It can have a disparaging effect in terms of damaging the entire crop. So sanitation and prevention is the cure for fusarium wilt rather than trying to treat it with something. Okay? Somebody asked about a herbicide for carrots. Yes, they have herbicide for carrots. I'm trying to remember the name of the herbicide. I don't want you to quote me on this. I want you to call me. You can call me. You can call our technical department and ask for me, and then I'll guide you as such. I don't want to give you the wrong name of the product here. So you can leave your credentials. I'm sure we can reach out to you and give you the correct answer for that question. Alright, so Guinea grass. Somebody asked about chemical to kill Guinea grass. Alright, so we have contact herbicides and we have what we call systemic herbicide. The contact herbicide, that you can use to kill Guinea grass, you have what we call paraquat. You can ask for active ingredient paraquat, or you can ask for active ingredient glyphosate when you go to your farm stores, and that should take care of your Guinea grass. Alright, but I want to make it clear that using these chemicals requires safety precautions. So you want your gloves, you want your respirators and your goggles, and your overall, ensure that you're in the correct gear to use these chemicals. So you don't want to arbitrarily just take up a chemical, go to your backyard or wherever, or your farm, and just start to spray. We want to ensure that you practice safe measures, safe way of using these chemicals. Alright, so I'm going to go through some more questions that I have that came through before we started the live cast here. Can you give me the names of the best fertilizer for plantains, banana? I think I went through, I gave the answer to that already. Somebody said they're growing Irish potato for the first time and they're thinking of using 11-22-22. They said they're not sure if it will work, and what is our recommendation. Our recommendation always, and I'm going to say it again, is to do a soil analysis. That's our first recommendation. But if you can't, in the absence of that, you can use our fertilizer. You can use a fertilizer starter, and you can use our fertilizer finisher as described earlier on. 2 bags of 50 kg or 220 pounds at planting, and then you use our 550 pounds at molding. And then you can also use our Maniplex vegetable at a rate of 1 liter per acre, which goes into a 45-gallon drum of water, and you spray that bi-weekly. Every 14 days you spray that on your crop. Another question I was asked about white flies. How to get rid of white flies. Now if you're a large-scale farmer and you're having white flies on your farm, again, our first strike will treat white flies. But I want to encourage you farmers also. As I stand here and I tell you to use First Strike, or I tell you to use Eradicate, or I tell you to use Clear Away, I just want you to know that this is not the only option that you have, or this is not the only solution, or when I say only solution, this is not what you should be using every week, because the best practice is to be rotating your sprays. So if you use something this week, you want to use another insecticide the other week, and so you want to have 3 or 4 insecticides that you're rotating, and you don't know you're using the same insecticide over and over, and the same fungicide over and over on the same crop for the same within the same time period. Now, the reason for that is that you don't want the pest to develop what we call a resistance to the chemical that you're using. And so you want to change the active ingredients, or using different products with different active ingredients in what we call a pest and disease management program. Do you recommend using Epsom salt on Scotch bonnet pepper? I would say yes if I saw your soil test. But magnesium, which is Epsom salt, magnesium sulfate, hot peppers are heavy users of magnesium. And if your soil is absent of magnesium, then yes, you can go ahead and use magnesium sulfate. If you're seeing magnesium deficiency on the leaves of the crop, then yes, you can go ahead and use magnesium. But to use it arbitrarily, then just putting it on, because it's not the right practice, it's not the best practice. Alright? So what equipments do we sell? That's a very good question. Very, very good question. Recently, Newport Fersan Jamaica Limited, we started to distribute craft top equipments, motorized sprayers, mist blowers, and also before we had our regular knapsack sprayers, the Guinea brand. So we do sell equipment as well. We also have what we call our pH meters, which is an essential tool in agricultural production. If you're doing any form of agricultural activities, farming that is, you need a pH meter. And I can spend a little time, but I just got, we're close to the time already. I can't believe the time goes so fast. But we can, in another dispensation, another time, because it's the beginning of a series, and we're listening to you as farmers. You see, if there's something, if there's a specific topic that you want us to look at, you can then give us your feedback, and then we'll come on, and then we could talk about it. No problem. Another question came in: what's the best insecticide to use on sweet potatoes? The best insecticide to use is dependent on the insect that is affecting the sweet potatoes. Alright? The most important economic insect that affects potato is the potato weevil. And the potato weevil damages the fruit. It eats away the fruit and renders the fruit unmarketable. So you can't sell it to the vendors because there are some holes that they bore into the fruit. And they have what we call some pheromone traps that they put in the field that will lower those weevil to the trap, and then in that trap now you can put a solution that kills the insect. Alright? This person says she has a NPK and she also has calcium, magnesium, iron, trace element, liquid fertilizer. Is it good for all stages of plant growth? NPK and calcium, magnesium, is it good for all? Then I'd have to know the crop that you're putting it on, and then a little bit more details on the nutrient that you have to give you a better directive of how to use it. But it would be premature for me to say it can be used in all stages. So I'd have to get some information to use that. Now, thanks for your comment. This is Orchid Doc. It says that the Guinea knapsack sprayer is excellent. Thank you for that. Alright, thank you for that. Now, another question that was asked is about our high yield package. Our high yield package is, and what crops can it be used on? I want to spend a little bit of time just to explain to you how our high yield package works and what it entails and how to use it as a farmer. Now, our high yield package is a yield enhancer. It is not a product that can be used exclusively by itself. It has to be used in conjunction with a nutrient management program. Now, it comes in a box, and the package is it's a 1 acre pack. Within that box, it has 6 products, and those 6 products are applied in 3 stages. Each stage has 2 products. 45-gallon drum, and you spray it onto your crop. This enhances root development, longer roots, more root networks in the ground. It improves branching, you have more branch, and it increases leaf, and you have more leaf. So the plant grows more root. So the more root the plant has, the more it can access water and essential nutrients in the soil, and it has more branch, and it has more leaf. The more leaf it has, the more it photosynthesizes and makes food. Then the next stage, which is the flowering stage, it has another 2-pack. It's the Nano Vigor, and you have the Balance Nano. Now those 2 packs, again, you put it on a 45-gallon drum and you spray on. What it does, it increases the flowering of your crop, and it increases what we call, it improves the ratio between female flower and male flower. So you have a ratio of more female flower and male flower, and you know that a female flower is what brings forth the fruit of the plant. It prevents what we call also flower drop, so it reduces the likelihood of flower falling from the tree. And then you have the 3rd stage now, which is the fruiting stage, which again is 2 products. It's a fruit size enhancer and natural cab. Both of them together you pour in a 45-gallon drum and you spray in a crop. It increases the size of the fruit, prevents cracking in the fruit. So for example, like tomatoes that is susceptible to cracking, it prevents that, and it allows the plant to have more gradable fruit. So you have more fruits going to the market that is accepted by the persons in the market purchasing the fruit. So that's the high yield package. It has a technology in it, what we call it the nanotechnology. If you use some micro, a strand of air is about 60,000 to 100,000 microns, which is about 10 to the minus 6 if you do a little physics. But this is nanotechnology, it's 10 to the minus 9, which is micro is 10 to the million, nano is 10 to the billion. Alright, so it's very small, very, very small. And this makes it easy for it to pass into the leaves of the plant and enhances the plant, as I said before. Well, that's the time we have. Thank you for joining us. Please continue to send us your questions and your feedback. We are more than happy to assist you. We're more than happy to answer your questions. We'll be, as I said, this is just the beginning of a series. It's very good that you're joining us. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate your feedback and your comments and your questions. Continue sending them. Join us tomorrow. We'll be on Zoom. Denton Alvaranga will be going through tomato production. So if you're a tomato farmer, I saw some questions with tomato. So you can join us. And that's about 3 o'clock tomorrow. 3 o'clock tomorrow on Zoom. You can go to our website, or Facebook page, or Instagram page. Oh, sorry, it's not tomato, it's peanut, really. My apologies, it's peanut. So if you're a peanut farmer, you can join in tomorrow, and you'll learn some more about peanuts. So it's about 3 o'clock tomorrow on the Zoom. You can look at on our website or our social media platform. We'll post the link there. All right. April is a very special one. You know what April is? Farmers Month. Farmers Month. And so we have a lot of special events coming up for our farmers, and we'd like you to stay tuned, stay glued to Newport Fersan Jamaica Limited, and we'll have some surprise for you for Farmers Month. Farmers, thank you very much for joining us. We enjoyed your company. All right, and take care. Bye.